We are so thrilled to be talking about social media marketing today. It's our second learning lunch that's focused on digital marketing specifically. And I think Lorna is such a wonderful guest. I'll intro in just a second, but I think her advice is going to be extremely pragmatic. And so, yeah, we're just going to be talking through a beginner's guide to social media for this hour. So a lot of you guys may have already met Lorna. She was our social media manager up until about a year ago, but since then she's been doing incredible things. She's actually started her own little agency called Loolacreative, which is all about, yeah, just helping people with these very practical ways of approaching social media and making it a lot, you know, less complicated than it sometimes seems. And just from a V&A Waterfront perspective, if I haven't met you, hello, my name is Megs. I head up digital marketing for the V&A. And from our side, some of the things that we've been doing whilst trying to help our tenants on this kind of difficult journey as COVID kind of hits, has been on the fulfillment side of things, our exciting service, which is click and collect focused, and just helps to kind of get our tenants out there and make the fulfillment side of things a lot easier. So we're excited to announce that we are, you know, up and running with that. We've got a lot of nice buy-in on that front. But the digital marketing week is particularly about how to then drive that demand so that we can fulfill using smart technology like Cargo and click and collect. If you didn't join us yesterday, we spoke about digital marketing. Today we're speaking about social media marketing. And if at any point you have a question, please feel free to pop it in the questions box, and Lorna and I will definitely pause and just get to it as soon as we can. And then just on the last remaining webinars for the week, we do have email marketing tomorrow and lead generation on Friday. And also just to remind everyone of the SMME help desk email, if you guys haven't already written that down, it's probably a good one too. And of course we're on Zoom and not Crowdcast, but don't let that kind of put you off. Just pop your mics on mute, but feel free to be very chatty in the comment section. We always love that. But without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Lorna. And yeah, we're really thrilled to have you here today, Lorna. So thank you very much for giving of your time.
Thank you so much, Megs. I really appreciate that, and appreciate you guys just joining us. As like Megan said, so just a little bit about me. I have 6+ years of experience across the social media management, and I've worked for various brands and various businesses such as the V&A Waterfront. Was there with them for almost 3 years before I moved to now Durban, and obviously started my own social media agency. We're still very small, but growing rapidly. So I think for me, the main, what I love most about such conversations and topics is just because we all kind of together in this phase and these unknown and testing times. I think it's just better that we all share insights, share information, and all just like provide ways of support for different businesses and brands. So I really think that what the V&A Waterfront is doing is really amazing. And I do hope that the information that I've shared with you today and what you guys learned yesterday as well and the rest of the week is something that is really helpful for your various brands and businesses. So I think to get straight into it and just to get started, it's always around the question about what is the social media? Like, why do I need to use it, and why do I have to have it for my business? So just a quick snapshot of what social media is. It's basically platforms and apps that you basically use to connect and communicate with your friends, family, customers, consumers in this case. And with the most popular platforms being obviously your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, and then now most recently TikTok, which grew like exponentially, like during the lockdown period. It just skyrocketed because it used to be a platform that was basically used by teenagers. And then during the lockdown period, I guess a lot of people just wanted to really understand like, what is this platform and why are all these videos and like why is everybody talking about it and so forth and so on. So it's a really growing social media platform. And I even read somewhere that it's I think it's an annual report done by the I think it's Ornico they called, where they said that TikTok celebrated the 1 billion user last year, 2019, in February, which I think is insane, because if you think about the other platforms that we all sort of know very well, globally, they're just like about 5 billion people that are always connected, logged in, using these platforms. So to see one that is fairly new just come into the market like that and just like kind of take over is really, really, really amazing. And as mentioned, so there are about close to 4 billion active users on social media globally. And then if we bring it sort of to the home front, there's like about 22 million South Africans that are active users on these platforms. And when I say active users, I mean someone that is basically on a social media platform or on their phones for about like 2 hours at a time, and that's every single day. And these numbers obviously would have increased during the lockdown period, because everybody just felt like the need to want to connect with friends, want to connect with family. And I also saw that WhatsApp actually kind of took over during that time, because people were sharing a lot of like sort of, WhatsApp messages, obviously sending out WhatsApp messages, and just really needing that human connection, really needing to know how family is, how friends are, and so forth and so on. So I think it's really, really crucial to understand that these platforms are really here to stay, and how they basically managed to sort of grow from just becoming platforms that are just used solely for social and like sort of friends, between friends and family, but also for business. So also, and just to give you a snapshot of the impact of social media during the COVID period, and with hashtag stay home and flatten the curve. So surveys that were conducted between the March to May period, which was the beginning of our lockdown around May, show a rise in the use of majority in the popular platforms such as WhatsApp and Facebook, as I've just said. And this was a 40% usage increase between the ages of 18 to 34. This is both in male and female. So I think this just really goes to show that everybody was just like plugged in, everybody was just like online, everybody was just like sharing content constantly and consistently. And just to highlight some of the ways people were using these platforms during this time, Twitter is where a lot of people went to, in search of sort of live updates, people wanting to know, okay, when is the next presidential speech, what are some of the regulations and laws that the national government has placed. Also, just to really understand the different trending topics and what people are kind of talking about with regards to COVID and the whole pandemic, both from a global perspective, but also just like locally. And this is where you saw a lot of trending topics on Twitter as well. And then Facebook, sadly, here we saw a lot of fake news, people mixing up concoctions and saying that like, I found a cure for COVID. This was also the same for WhatsApp. And then Instagram, a lot of fitness content was on there, a lot of people doing home exercises and really showing people like, okay, cool, this is what I'm doing. This is like my 5-day exercise routine. Join me, be part of this. A lot of influencers actually doing that and participating in a lot of those. We also saw a lot of people who were acquainted with their kitchens, who were cooking up like a lot of recipes and sharing some of that. So it just became like a community of constant communication and content, because people were just so desperate for that connection and conversation with people. Because I mean, the people that hadn't seen families or friends for close to 30 days, like I haven't even seen my family since the March period up until now. And then with TikTok, as mentioned, a growing platform, like really, really one to watch, it basically took the spotlight. And there were a lot of people that were sharing videos too, because it is actually like a video-based social media platform. So it really became the friend we needed during tough times to really make us laugh, because a lot of the content that was on there was funny videos. There was like, COVID challenges and dance moves and all sorts of things that people were kind of doing. It's actually one to really familiarize yourself with if you don't really know it all that well. And I think it's a platform that moved from, again, what it was particularly known for, which was teenagers, but then it just grew into this like beast where a lot of different people, different age groups, genders were basically on that platform and pretty active.
Lorna, can we pause on the TikTok
Yeah.
comment, because we have received a question from Storm.
Cool.
They're asking if you recommend that South African businesses get on TikTok, and does it have any return on investment?
So I do think that, like any platform, it's important to really figure out is it a platform that's going to work for my business, and not to necessarily just go onto it just because it's on the come up or everybody's using it and a lot of people are sharing content. I think it's a matter of just really understanding how it works, and then going onto that platform and seeing the various opportunities, because there are opportunities. Like I remember saying to a friend that a lot of sort of beauty brands could basically get on there. A lot of because there was a lot of influencers that were sharing all sorts of like unique ways of doing makeup, but like through visuals, through music, through all sorts of things. So I think to answer that question, it's important to make sure that the type of platform aligns with what your brand is about, what your product is about, and what your services are, and to be mindful of the type of content that you would want to sort of like show up and show off on that platform, but not to do it purely because everybody's on that platform and everybody is posting something. So I must also just be there, because then if you don't have insight and you don't really have a thought process around it, then you're just gonna get there, and then everybody's gonna be like, okay, like what? I don't really understand what the thinking is here. Yeah, so it's a consideration and planning thing, I have to say.
Awesome, thanks, Lorna. The one brand I saw actually promoting themselves on TikTok was True Cape Fruit. I thought it was so interesting, because you'd think maybe it doesn't align, but I guess on the ROI comments, I think if you can get awareness in unexpected ways, and it's part of your brand character to be a bit kind of, different, then maybe the ROI would show up. Thanks, Lorna.
Definitely. And then I think now that we kind of understand what social media is and how it works and all the little good nuggets that we understand about the various platforms, I think it's now important for us to sort of ask the purpose questions, like the why once again, and then like who do I talk to? Who are these people that I need to talk to? And what are these platforms that I need to get on? And what do I share? And what do I post? So basically, how do I show up on these platforms, and how do I sort of service my customers by being on these platforms? And why do I even need to be doing social media for my business and have these social media platforms for my business? And I think just to go straight into the very first question, which is why should my business use social media, which you hear quite a number of times, because I think it's still for a lot of people, I think social media is still that a little bit of a pain point, in the sense that like I really don't understand how these platforms work. I really don't understand why I need to be on them. Can I just use traditional marketing and just call it a day? And I think for me, it's important to understand that it's not just about being social on social media, but I think gone are the days where people would go to your website and read about your about section, for example, and say, oh, okay, cool, now I know what they do. So now the reason you need to be on social media is because people need to understand that you exist. You're an actual tangible business that exists and is around, and social media will also provide you the opportunity to be able to share information with your customers, your consumers, and really just give them the information like that they would necessarily require, and they wouldn't necessarily either find on your website, or maybe they would, but they're not necessarily going on the website because they're not sure if you even exist. So it's just letting them know who you are, what you're about, what you do, services that you offer, what your product is about. And then it's also just a means to just connect with your customers and connect with your consumers, and really engage with them. Like, what are their needs, and really understand that, like, are you meeting some of those needs, and are you showing up in ways that they kind of would want you to. So top level, definitely that you exist, and to share information, and to connect with your customers. And obviously the big one, you want to obviously make sales. So people can't buy from you if they don't know that you exist, and they can't buy from you if you don't know what you're selling. So those are really important insights with regards to like why you need social media for your business. And it's also nice to really connect and relate to brands that have like a human element to them. So I think it's really nice to be on social media platforms so that people can see the content that you share, can see the the type of copy, post, tone that you use with regards to selling or showing off your different products or services. So I think social media is like a great platform if you want to give that human element to your brand, instead of just, okay, cool, this is who we are, this is what we do, but just to sort of have conversations and to, again, like I said, connect with your customers. And then again, it's to build trust. So a quick example that I can make is, if, for example, a friend goes to a restaurant, and then, well, the times of going to a restaurant with like a whole lot of people, but if a friend goes to a restaurant and she's taken a really amazing picture of like a plate of food that she ate, you know, Instagram, and then I'll be like, oh wow, I didn't know that that particular place existed. Oh, I didn't know there was, like, even when I moved to Durban, I was like, oh, wine farms everywhere. But I used to go onto Instagram and search for, like, I don't know, Durban wine farms, and then start seeing people post. And then because I know that place exists now and people have actually been there, I can actually trust that if I go there, I will find it's there, and I will actually almost have a similar kind of experience. So you want to build trust within these platforms, which is why you obviously need to exist on these platforms and not just sort of say that, okay, cool, I'm here, but people should kind of know about me. But I think social media does really help with a little bit of that work. And I think, once again, you just to highlight like the different variations of like the fact that you exist, and you're building brand trust, humanizing your business, and making sales, that then ends up being a situation where you're able to kind of build brand advocates and influencers that will talk about you. So same example that I just made is that somebody doesn't necessarily have to be at a restaurant and necessarily take pictures, but if the experience was so valuable and they just like enjoyed being there, they definitely want to talk about it. They definitely are going to share about it. So you automatically just building people that are advocates for your business, that talk about you without you even having to do anything, and sharing the information about you. And that's how things then spread. One person talks about your product or service and how exceptional it is, tells the next person ends up going to check it out and buy that item or visit your establishment. And then you just have a whole community of people that are following you, that are celebrating you, that love you. And I think that's such a nice element or space to kind of speak to. I think I see a question here. Okay, we saw the TikTok one. How much time should a business dedicate to managing and curating their social media feed, I assume? Okay, so I think we'll touch on this a little bit later down the line, but I think just to highlight it a little bit, I think it's more about, I'm for the saying that says it's better to spend more time on getting the quality of your content right, instead of just wanting to just post. So I think if you really want to, let's say, for example, you've chosen one platform and you just really want to work on that and perfect it. So spend the time to get it right, to curate it, to make it what you kind of want, and then start sharing the content, and not to be too bothered about, oh my gosh, I need to post like 7 times a day, 10 times a day, because so-and-so is doing that, so I also need to do that. So I think it's really important to take the time but I think also at the same time, with taking time, you also want to not spend too much time on the planning process, but also just saying, okay, cool, now that we've had these ideas in terms of how we're going to show up, let's maybe test with one post and then see how that performs, or see how that one does. I hope that answered your question, but I do touch on that a little bit further down, on curating your different platforms and stuff. Okay, cool. And then the second question is the what. So what is the best platform for my business, and what do I share, or what do I post? So here, I think it's just basically, I saw this actually on the internet, and I thought it was really cute and very funny, because it just basically gives you an indication of what the various platforms are and how they obviously work. So this is one way, for example, Mr. Bacon will say on Facebook, I like bacon. They'll post about how much they like bacon. And then on Twitter, they'll be like, I'm eating bacon. And then on Instagram, it will be a photo of actual bacon. And then YouTube, because of how it works, people always show you their how-to videos and how to do a particular thing. So here's like, watch me eat lots of bacon. And then LinkedIn. My skills include eating bacon, but I thought this was really, really funny. Just get straight into the next point. So looking at a platform such as Facebook, for example, which I think is more for Megan and Stephen touched on this yesterday a little bit with regards to just, this is a place where you find several groups, you'll find several people, just like a group of large communities that are just ready to get to know you, get to know your brand, get to know your service. And this is also, when it comes to boosting content and putting money behind it, it means that the opportunity to find more people that can actually relate to your brand, love your brand, support your brand, or follow your brand is a lot more, because then you can start targeting the right people that are going to follow your brand. And like I said, Megan and Steve touched on this yesterday. It's also a place, again, tied to the first point, larger communities. There's so many people that are active on Facebook, and it continues to be a growing platform. It continues to be a platform that people will have other platforms, but they'll always come back and return to a Facebook. Yes, we might say that, you know, like my aunt and my mom and my uncles are all on Facebook now. I basically choose who I want to follow, and some content I don't actually show them, but I think gone are those days where it just used to be a certain age group that was on a particular platform. Everybody's on there now, and it continues to just grow and surprise us and just develop as a platform. And then also, again, like customer service champion. So this is where a lot of businesses and brands get to communicate with their customers. This is where a lot of issues are managed, and a lot of sort of compliments, I guess, are also received. And also, this is where you can post your longer form content. So that's like you can post a video that's longer than the 1 minute that you would on an Instagram, for example. I think you can post for up to like a 4-hour video on Facebook. I wouldn't go that route though, because I think people have a very short attention span, and I think if you just keep it to about like a few seconds to a minute, then that's great. But I think on times where you really want to have your video content live on Facebook and just something that people can always go back to, it's a nice option to have, and that's what you would obviously get from Facebook. And just to touch on a few entry points in terms of how people can actually speak to you or get a hold of your business on Facebook. There's your DMs, which are your direct messages. So people just sending you an inbox and saying, hi, I have a particular issue. I bought this and it hasn't been delivered, or it was delivered, but it wasn't in the condition that I'd expected or anticipated. And then you obviously monitor and handle that via inbox with that particular customer. And then hopefully then it ends up being one that is closed and the customer is happy. You also get like the review section where people review your business and talk about like, you know, your service, your services and how your customer service is. They'll praise you, they'll give you a rating. You'll either get a 1-star, a 5-star, and they'll sort of, and it's a public space, because if a business is reviewed, you are able to, like I would be able to see if someone, like a friend's review on a particular page, that 1-star. So complaints can go from anything to like, okay, so customer service issue, which are always sort of mainly that. And then it could be people just praising you and saying, oh my gosh, 5-star, definitely coming back to this restaurant, to this business, to, you know, so definitely reviews on that point. And then there's post comments. So whatever you post on whatever content that you share or post on your feed, people can obviously engage with that and comment, and also just use the reaction, which is to like, to love, and to celebrate the content that you're posting. And then we've got post to page mentions. And I think with this one, it's somebody that likes your page but isn't necessarily following it. So then they would just send you a message that would be public as well, but you wouldn't see it on your feed. You wouldn't see it on your inbox. It would just be sort of like on the side today, but you'll get like a notification that tells you that somebody has sent you like a message, and you'll get it because of that particular mention. So there's various entry points that people can kind of reach you, to talk to you, speak to you, and it can get a little bit sort of like much, especially if you like a brand that is quite well known. So a lot of places that people can get a hold of you. So I think it's a good one to always manage and ensure that as part of your your comm strategy is that you really make it a priority to make sure that somebody is plugged in on all those various points of entry where people can talk to you and chat to you. Because I think, you know, it's very important it leaves a very bad taste in someone's mouth if I send you a message or I message you and then 2 days pass and there hasn't been a response, or that particular query or complaint hasn't been taken up. I think I see another question. Okay. Will the recording be shared? Yes, it will, Larisha. And then hi. Oh, yes, Megan's answered that. Okay, cool. And next one. Okay, so Instagram, as you can see with that beautiful, lovely meal over there that I literally want to devour right now. So Instagram is a highly visual platform. So this one it came off where it was just people sort of showing off their photography skills. It's definitely about, like, you know, like we mentioned, now we're having this conversation about curated content. It's where you know, aesthetic is everything. So it's really a platform that you kind of have to really have like some sort of content strategy around, because not all content will work on an Instagram, for example. So copy heavy content, for example, wouldn't necessarily work as well as just an image with either a plate of food or just an image with just like your product that you're selling, and then just like a short caption at the bottom that just basically gives people more information. So this is where you can really go all out with really showcasing what it is that you do, really showcasing your beautiful and marvelous products. And it doesn't, when I say a highly visual and like quality, it doesn't necessarily even have to be professional photography. It just has to be like clear image, because I think I've seen on Instagram where, you know, a particular brand or business will post an image, but you can see like the quality is not that great. But it's something that they really wanted to go out with, so they were like, let's just post it, let's just share it, but quality is not that amazing. So you really kind of want to work on a great visual aesthetic when it comes to this particular platform. And when I say aesthetic, that's like a term that everybody on Instagram is always using, like, you know, you need to get that Instagram aesthetic. That's just basically just curating your feed or your platform. If you want to infuse your brand colors in there, if you want to add you know, your own sort of personality and spin to how you kind of want to show off. So it's really about curated content and spending the time to really figure out, okay, cool, if I'm selling this particular apple, I really want this apple to look delicious and really look amazing. So maybe I'm going to polish it up a little bit, and then I'm going to find different props and accessories to sort of put together with this apple to really kind of tell a story, but like a visual story, because people, chances are, probably not going to read the entire caption, but they just want to kind of understand or really get to fall in love with the product from just looking at the visual. And again, just like touching on quality over quantity. So really spend the time, rather, instead of just saying, I want to post like 5 Instagram posts a day, rather say commit to like 2 and say, okay, cool, I'm going to just make sure that those 2 are like the most amazing and highly visual pieces of content, instead of just saying, let me just post anything, even if it's not as great, let me just share it. And this is just an example, just took some screenshots from the V&A Waterfront's platform, so you can see it's just like high visuals. A lot of the colors that we all know of the V&A Waterfront are there. And that, again, just to touch on the various entry points that you can find in terms of Instagram and where content can live. So you've got like your feed, where you'll, again, want to plan, curate if you want to. There's different platforms and apps. Makes touched on them yesterday as well, again, where you can really start planning. So say, for example, you've got a quote that you want to post today, but tomorrow you want to post your product, and then another quote maybe. So you would literally just use that platform, these planning or scheduling platforms, to put all 3 images, and then you would just be able to move around and see what works with what in conjunction to the previous content that you'd posted before. So that's how they work, and that's a nice thing about them, because then you would then say, okay, I'll post a product, then I'll do the quote in the middle, and then I'll do another product again. So it's just like creates like nice, seamless sort of piece of content, and like a curated feed that just is very sort of visually appealing. When somebody comes onto your platform, they're just like, oh, I just so want to follow them, because their platform and their feed is just so beautiful. And then again, there's your stories where you can share basically content that lasts for up to 24 hours. And then after that, it disappears. So this can be anything that you can run. You can run competitions on here. You could just post like new product offering. You can post like sort of new store openings. You can post any content that you kind of want to send out on the go. And then also there's obviously different dimensions for each platform. And I think it's a matter of just understanding what the dimensions are for, you know, your feed, what the dimensions are for your stories. And then as I mentioned, in many other posts as well. So I said that your stories can disappear after 24 hours, but we have the highlights, which highlights, as you can see up top there in the V&A Waterfront, it says creativity, it says Covert, and then 5-hour challenge, and then play. So that is what you would basically call highlights. So highlights are any content that comes from your stories that you want to keep. So what happens with your stories on Instagram is that it might disappear for the public, but on your side and your platform, it'll sit in a section called like an archive section. You'll find it when you go to your settings section. So all the content that you've ever posted on your stories sits on that archive, and then you get to pick and choose what type of content you want to then include in your highlight section. So your highlight section then is something that somebody will come on to your platform, see above your feed, and then will decide then if they want to click on, oh, I want to see what they did for creativity. Oh, I want to see what the V&A Waterfront said with regards to COVID. So then any story item that you would have put under that particular highlight is then what people are going to see, but they're not going to see what is in your archives. Even though you can see it on your end and it's disappeared on the sort of story side section. And then we have Igtv, which Instagram basically brought this one out so that you could post any video that is longer than 1 minute on this. So that's also just any content that you kind of like to keep and add as part of your overall content strategy. It's just nice for somebody when they come into your platform to just have a different journey and an exploration of your platform, where you come from, what are some of the amazing things that you've done, just to really familiarize themselves with your offering and your business. So those are the various entry points on Instagram with the various features. I just want to check if we have any questions.
You have 2 questions, Lorna. I'll read them to you.
Cool.
The first one's from Kelly, and she asks, do you think from your experience that videos gain more traction on Instagram rather than a standstill image, or would you leave videos for Facebook?
Cool. That's a very, very good question, Kelly. I advocate for video all times, every day, all the time. Because I think people just generally are more prone to love video content more than a static image, even though, yes, Instagram started off as a platform where people were just posting great visuals and stuff. But I think video content really encompasses what you want to say in a shorter space of time, and I don't have to read anything, I just watch. And it's so bad because people just don't like to read and they don't want to read. They just want the information to be fed with them. So the simplest way that I can sort of take in that information, the better. But it's also important to be mindful of making sure that the video is not like a long video that tells like a sort of long story. Like, let's get to the point very quickly. Like, even it used to be like 1 minute was like amazing. Like, even that 1 minute is like way too long. So we're talking in the seconds now. So I think it's not a matter of does it gain more traction, but I definitely think that in my experience that video has performed a lot better than just static images. And this is the same for the Facebook platform as well. Like, I know Megs and I were having a conversation about if you create a slideshow on your Facebook, as opposed to just posting, say for example, you've got like 5 different images that you want to share, but they all kind of link together. Instead of posting each of those images as static images, rather include them as a slideshow on Facebook. It's like a feature that is on there. And then you just have that like a play and loop as a video, because people engage with that a lot more than if they have to scroll through different images and then still have to read the copy and so forth. And so I think for me to answer that question in a more concise way is to say that video definitely always better than static images. And then it's just nice to have static images just like in between. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Lorna. I think, yeah, just a nice tip that you've just given. I think it's called Facebook Creator Studio, and
yeah.
That's exactly what Lorna's referring to. So it enables you to upload almost like multimedia, and you create your own little mini video within Facebook. So you don't need to ask a designer to do it. I do it myself all the time. It'll just create a short clip for you, and it does actually perform a little bit better. So that's
it's so
awesome
amazing.
one.
I'm so obsessed with it now. After our conversation, I'm literally like so obsessed with it. I think it's just much better.
It's awesome. And then Lorna, just one more question before we proceed. From Samson. Hi Lorna, is there a preferable social media platform that you'd say is ideal for small business?
Cool. So I think, again, understanding to what your business is about or what product you're selling. So I think for me, I always lean more towards either a Facebook or an Instagram as great starting points. You can do both, or you can do one or the other. And if you really kind of have to choose, then I think Facebook is obviously like another amazing starting point platform that you want to understand, really get to know, and you really want to perfect, because then it means that if you want to get to a position where you end up promoting your content, you can do it on the Facebook platform. If you're still kind of hesitant about the high quality, great visuals and visual storytelling that is kind of as demanded on Instagram, then I mean, it's always good to post high quality images in any platform, but I think Facebook is a space where the focus for a lot of people that are on there is not that they're looking for, images that are on fleek and aesthetic, and they're just looking for, I want to know what your brand does, what your business does. Can you offer this to me? Can you do this? Can I get this from you? So I think Facebook is definitely an amazing platform to harness and really understand and really get to know the different ways, the ins and outs in terms of how it works, especially from like the content promotion perspective, like boosting content, how to target, and so forth and so on. But you would have obviously gotten that from the presentation yesterday. So Facebook and then Instagram if you can't do both. Cool. Okay, we don't have any more for now. And then we're going to talk about the lovely Twitter, which I at times seem to love to hate, but also hate to love. So Twitter is a very interesting platform in the fact that people are there to just really, like, I have a Twitter platform and I'm not as active in terms of posting, but I'm active in terms of wanting to see what people are talking about, wanting to see what are some of the trending topics, it's more for sort of research purposes and to always be in the know. So Twitter's really, really great for that, because you always know what's happening in and around the world firsthand from Twitter. I think I don't even go to like your typical traditional media to know what it is, like if something has happened. I literally just go straight to Twitter to see if it's trending, to see if if there are any new updates with regards to a particular conversation that was happening. So Twitter is really great for content that is unfolding as things happen, as things change. What are people talking about? What are people saying? How are people feeling? So it is very interesting to kind of see some of the feedback every time there was like a Cyril Ramaphosa's address. You'd go straight to Twitter, or while you're watching, actually, people were on Twitter, just like making comments, just to get like a sense of how people are feeling. What are some of those conversations and what people are saying? And then also, Twitter is like a place for viral content. So things go viral all the time. It's either people going viral, businesses going viral, and it's just either for good or bad. So I think one good move that you do as a business, and you're on Twitter, and then you say something amazing, or you do something amazing, and then one sort of celebrity or person with a high following, they call them Twilebs, so Twitter celeb, with a high following, engages with your tweet either by retweeting it, which is basically sharing it, or commenting on it, and then that gets seen by his followers or her followers. Then it means that you basically have high potential of just being on that top trending list, but just obviously make sure that it's always for the right reasons, because Twitter's a very fickle platform, as I've said, and it's very hard to come back from once you've been on the trending list or topics for something very, very bad. And I think also customer service champion, but in the public eye. So similar to a Facebook, is that it's a platform that a lot of people use to to engage with brands on either, you know, positive sort of feedback or complaints regarding like service. But people just like to blast brands on there. They don't necessarily want to take things to the inbox platform, but they want everybody to see. If I had a particular bad experience at a particular business, I want everybody to know that this is what happened. So that's what they do. Then they'll just tweet as is. So I think it's nice to just make sure to respond to that particular complaint as soon as you see it. And at times you can always just take it to the inbox, because I think a lot of people just don't have issues once somebody has acknowledged them and has actually listened to what they have to say. And then they don't mind if you shift the conversation to the inbox, because you don't want to be going back and forth on the actual feed where everybody can see the entire conversation. And I think also by taking it to the inbox, you also just like, you know, politely sort of say to them, listen, please share your details with us and just apologize, and then just say, please inbox us your contact details, and then we'll make sure that this is resolved and sorted out. And then whatever feedback then you get from them, then I think it's just sort of constant communication from there on the private messages. And then this is obviously also a place where a lot of celebrities and influencers are. This, just like Instagram, celebrities and a lot of influencers are constantly on that platform, constantly like talking and sharing things and retweeting and being part of so many other conversations and stuff. And then it's GIFs, memes, and more. So humor is a big part of Twitter. So being on there, you got to have a great sense of humor. You've got to be a person that just, you know, there's a lot of dry humor. There's a lot of people just share GIFs. So I think as your business, I think you really need to, you don't necessarily have to share a GIF, but I think it's a matter of just finding a way to add to that humor, or to be a part of that humor, but through your own tone, your own sort of special way. And then because I think there's like if I can just share that slide, for example. So there's like a bunch of topics and businesses and trends that have like that have trended in the past. We also know the masks challenge. As soon as Cyril, our president, basically wore his mask wrong, seconds later, everyone on Twitter was basically doing the mask challenge. It was like a whole trending. I screenshotted so many different conversations around that, because people just love humor. And I think he also just like, because I think the next time he had another announcement that he had to make, he made a brief comment about about him having trended on Twitter because of the whole mask challenge. So I think it's a space that is safe to play in, but you just have to be very aware and very cautious of the things that you are putting out there, and literally stress test them at all times, so that you make sure that your business and your brand is showing up in the best possible way on that particular platform. Because Twitter people can be so unforgiving, but it's a good space nonetheless as well. And then if we talk to, time, okay, cool. So if we speak to number 3, in terms of who do I speak to? So who do you speak to? So the simple answer to that question is, again, just your audience. Those are the people that you're going to be speaking to. Those are the people that you're going to be in conversation with. These are your customers. These are people that you're already selling to. These are people that are already using your services. Now it's just a matter of speaking to them in a more public platform. And it's also finding ways to engage with new potential customers that you never sort of knew were people that would be interested in your brand or business or service. So that's basically who you're speaking to and who you're tailoring your content for. And I think I read somewhere as well that it says like focus on, I think it's the 80-20 rule. So 80% of where your revenue comes from is basically those people are your target audience, and those people are who you should be talking to and speaking to. And then once you've built your strategy and everything else, then you start focusing on, okay, cool, I would also like to get A, B, C, and D as a target audience. And that's obviously something that you, again, would do during your strategy. And then how do I get started? I've already alluded to this in a little bit. So getting started is that you just want to maybe build on your social media strategy. There was a few amazing nuggets and points that, again, Megan touched on yesterday in her digital marketing webinar yesterday. So you want to also create a social media strategy, which basically encompasses a lot of different points and pillars, because there you want to solidify your audience. You want to really get to know who your audience is, who my target audience is, because you might have had an idea about the kind of people that you think are supporters of your business, but now you're actually realizing the more you sort of deep, you're really finding that there's actually new information, a new kind of person that really loves and is engaging with your brand. And then you need to make sure that you're choosing the right platform. Figure out, okay, out of the 100 million platforms that exist out there, or out of the main 5 that I know are popular, which is the one that I know really speaks to my business, really speaks to my service, and which one can actually choose to kind of go with. And then once you've done that, you're going to start sort of like planning and producing like your content around like what is it that you're going to post, and what you're going to post, how often you're going to post, and so forth and so on. And then you also want to sort of put like some success like measures against your KPIs. So by 2021, I want to make sure that I've got like, 100 followers. I want to make sure that all our content and we comfortably enough to post every single day, 5 times a week. So those are just examples of like key performance indicators that you could use. And then, sorry, this is actually not in the order that I wanted it to be, but anyway. So solidify your audience. You'll choose the platform that you want to work on, that you want to perfect. You'll start producing your content for sharing. You'll create like KPIs where you can measure your success, your goals, and like sort of like your efforts. Okay, now we see that there's a return on investment on A, B, C, and D, because these are our key performance indicators, and this is what we've done so far. And then you'll create your content, figure out content plan, how many days you want to post, which days of the week you want to post. And these are sort of information that would be available once you've built like a base on your insights and Facebook, where it'll show you who your followers are, how old they are, which times they're most active in the day, and which times they're most active, like in sort of like a Monday to Friday, which day is like your sort of like peak day. And then you can sort of plan your content according to that on your calendar. And then you would obviously hire someone to monitor or manage your platforms if you don't necessarily have the time to do it, or if it's something that you kind of have an understanding for, but you just would rather trust it in someone else's hands. But it could also be an employee that is already working with you who has an active social media and understands it. Then you would obviously sort of get them to kind of manage and monitor from that perspective. And I think we are nearing the end. So as mentioned earlier, so from now just deciding with the whole COVID and lockdown and everything else, we're also still very small and still growing as well. So my business is called Loolacreative, and these are the services that we offer. We do content management, content creation, which is like blog content. You'll like write your copy, your captions, and everything, and then also short form content. When before lockdown, it was like sort of live eventing, live posting at events, and so forth and so on. And then community management, where we basically really engage with your customer, your consumer. We make sure that your queries are responded to, and then there's also sort of someone responding to your post comments and captions. And then we also offer training and consulting. So if you want to kind of manage your own platforms, but you really want to kind of get an understanding of like, okay, how do they work? So we go deep into, this is how Instagram, this is what you can use it for, this is how it will benefit your business. And then we also do obviously social media strategy, just basically taking you on the journey of like, okay, well, let's figure out who your target audience is. Let's figure out what your content is going to look like. Let's figure out where you want to take your business and your brand online. And then account setup and basic branding. And then these are just like some few posts that we were sharing on LinkedIn just to help out with a lot of, various businesses that were kind of like not sure of how to show up on social media and what content to share. Also some tips on there, but you can obviously have a look at it in your own time. And then that's just my email address. And I'll be happy to make a package suited to your needs and budget if you need any of our services. And that is it. Any questions? I see the
Lorna, there are 2 questions. Just one question. From Eric, how long should a video be before it gets boring?
Yeah, so I think I couldn't remember the actual, I think now it's not even, because it used to be 1 minute, was like, okay, you need to cap it at 1 minute. And then it was like the first 2 to 5 seconds you must have captured video ready for me to even continue watching any further. So we're working from the 5 to sort of like 30 seconds mark now, I think. So the shorter the better, basically, is what you need to remember. Because longer no longer kind of works.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Lorna. And then there is a Twitter-specific question that I think is a lovely one from Adam. And he asks, being a content curator for TEDx Cape Town, what would you say is the best way for on Twitter for them to promote events and talks that they are hosting?
Okay, cool. So I think
on Twitter specifically.
I think that's a very nice one because of the nature of what TED Talks are. It's so nice to kind of engage in some of the conversations, number one, that people are kind of talking about. Because like I said, it's nice to, even if you're not active on Twitter, just sort of posting every day, but I think it's nice to really spend some time really looking at what people are talking about, really looking at the engagement, and really seeing the different opportunities that you could use for your brand and your business. So there's several topics that are always trending that I think like a TED Talk or TEDx would be more inclined to kind of want to participate and talk to. So then once you understand and you've established that particular trending topic, for example, you could make sure that you kind of relate it in a way in your copy so that you can use that hashtag that, say, for example, people are talking about like needing, opportunities for maybe young creatives and that sort of thing. And then there's like there used to be a popular trending topic that always used to come up. It's called Open Up the Industry, where people will just start going off with celebrities saying that people and businesses and these production companies are not giving the young talent enough room or space or opportunity. So I think if, for example, a TED Talk then would be having an event related to obviously, opportunity, young creatives, young minds, it would obviously say that, you know what, I think it's maybe make a comment and be a thought leader in terms of that conversation, and then use that hashtag to say, by the way, we have this particular event coming up. If you want to join in the conversation, if you want to be a part of it, because we're going to be addressing some of these concerns that a lot of people are talking to. And so I think it's really trying to find ways in terms of the trending topics that are happening, and then just taking that and then finding ways around how to curate it as part of your messaging and your content. Because you don't want to just use the hashtag, but it doesn't relate to what you're going to be talking about or what's going to be happening. I think that's the best way that kind of seems to work for a lot of people. Yeah, because you want to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of mistakes that people make when it comes to Twitter is just pushing content, and the whole point of Twitter is obviously to be conversational. So
Yes.
I think the brands which do better are the ones that encourage that two-way conversation. The other thing, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, Lorna, is on Twitter, they actually have a polls functionality. So that could be a fun way of finding out what topic the next event could be about.
Yeah,
or otherwise, something that we spoke about yesterday was the fact that for the V&A, for some strange reason, our videos actually perform the absolute best on Twitter. So I think it's worth sense testing and kind of stress testing your content across all your platforms and seeing, because you might be surprised at something like video on Twitter. Yeah.
Seeing which platform actually does work better, because like I've seen there'll be a lot of trending topics once again, but then you see a business, like a particular business that has mentioned the hashtag, but you realize that the content isn't about what people are talking about. And I think that can leave a very bad taste in people's mouths, because, people might be talking about something very serious. And I've seen people that are promoting events during like traumatic conversations that people were having. So I think it's just a matter of like also just playing it by ear, and then just really taking time to listen and really doing your research and testing it with various people. Hey, we're thinking of sharing this. This is the hashtag that everybody's talking about right now. We kind of want to include this on ours. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's obviously a viable thing? Like, test it as much as possible, and then obviously push out that content and send it out there. And then I see a lot of, because I know that with Twitter advertising, it is quite pricey, but I've seen a lot of brands who will basically during you'll see it in between like a trending topic or something, they'll basically have their particular ad on there. But again, choosing the different topics that they want to be a part of, because you don't want to have people talking about, I don't know, something bad, and then your advert ends up like being a part of that conversation. So I think there's a lot of brands that are kind of very strategic in terms of they ad spend and how they advertise on Twitter to make sure that they appear on the different conversations and topics. I'm actually still wanting to really kind of understand and dig deep into how that actually works and how they do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Lorna. And then just two more questions. I'm just mindful of time. So on the Twitter conversation, Susan's asking a bit more about hashtags. Should you be doing research before using them? And she's asking more about Instagram, but also Twitter. She's not sure if there's a difference.
Cool. So yeah, so I think with hashtags at any point, just because people are using them, you don't want to just jump on the bandwagon as well and just use it just because everybody's doing this. Because, you know, obviously hashtags are a way to categorize different pieces of content together. So you want to really go into, if a particular hashtag is trending on Twitter, but the content that you find there is like safe to use and it kind of looks okay. But then if you go on Instagram and use the same hashtag, you'd find that, oh, I didn't check. But then there's like a lot of other things that I wouldn't want to be associated with. So it's great to do a little bit of research on both ends, on both platforms, because if you use a hashtag on Instagram and you search for it, it's not going to show you what everybody else has said on other platforms, but rather it's going to show you what people have said on this particular platform, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So great to use hashtags, but just be mindful of the ones that you are using and just do a little bit of research before you use. And also don't go for the macro sort of hashtags. Try and find smaller versions of the same hashtag that you would use so that your content is visible, or at least gets an opportunity or chance to be a little bit visible, because you don't want to be competing with like a global conversation or people or brands or businesses. Yeah.
Cool. And then I think a lovely question just to wrap up with is from CC. How relevant do you think traditional media such as TV or billboards is today when contrasted with digital marketing?
That's such a good question. So I think there's a lot of pressure, if I have to be honest, but I think what helps them is the fact that they're very expensive. So you're talking in the millions and like they've got like big budgets and big spend. But the beauty about social media is that you can still get the return that you kind of need or want with way less and not having to spend like all the millions that they do. So I think there is definitely like competition, and you see it a lot of the times with advertisers. They're becoming a little bit more aggressive now in terms of like trying to get people to advertise on TV or advertise on billboards. But I think we can't look at advertising or marketing the same anymore, especially with the conversations around social and digital, because people no longer, like I was having a conversation with a friend saying that like I don't even have a TV, for example. I was having a conversation with a friend and she was saying like how she's ran out of content to watch on YouTube. Do I have any suggestions? And so I sent her a list of content and things that I watch on YouTube, and I just can't really. I think the last time I had a television was like maybe 5 years ago. So I don't really watch TV, and if I do, I have got DSTV on my DSTV connection on my mobile and my PC, so I'll watch on there. But like maybe that one particular show that I do like, but very few of that. So where am I going to see these television ads if I'm constantly on social media and I'm constantly on like these platforms like your Netflixes and your YouTube? So I think they're trying so hard, they're being aggressive, but I think the right people for those markets are still advertising on TV. The people that have those budgets are still continuing to market on television and the billboards. And I think there's nothing wrong, because I think you just do whatever works for you and try everything and see what works for you, and then you decide on what you want to continue with.
Awesome. Thanks, Lorna. Well, that is our time. We are so grateful to you for sharing your insights with us today. Just a reminder that, of course, Lorna has given her email address. We'll circulate that, as well as, of course, our SMME helpdesk at waterfront.co.za email address. So thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have had you, Lorna. And if anyone's interested in email marketing, we'd love to, of course, have you join us again tomorrow at the same time at 12 o'clock for email marketing with our friends over at Everlytic. But thanks everyone very much, and hopefully see you tomorrow.